بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala has given us the opportunity tonight to get together and be in the circle of the angels whenever a group or gathering gets together to come and to remember the name of Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala and to get better in our deen, to become more enhanced in our religion. Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala has a gathering of angels as well. And there's tranquility and serenity amongst us. May Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala accept our gathering today. Allahumma ameen. Tonight, inshallah, the topic is going to be about the temptation of women. The temptation of women. But before we dive into that, we had a quick question, and before we continue, and I want this brother to be able to concentrate on the topic that we have tonight. The question was, Malik versus Malik, owner versus king. What is the difference between Malik and Malik? When we say in the Surah Fatiha, Maliki Yawmiddin, and in another recitation, it's Maliki Yawmiddin, that Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala, in one, is the king of the day of judgment, meaning there are kings on the earth, but Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala is the king of all kings. And also the owner, Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala tells us that in the Ayatul Kursi, that everything between the skies and the earth, meaning everything between the earth, throughout the skies, all the way above, whose is it? It's Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala owns it. So that is the difference between being an owner and a king. Owner is something of possession. King, you don't need to necessarily have to have possession of everything, right? You can have a palace, but you have rulership over all people. That is the main difference. So be a king is that you are the one that they have to follow your dominion. It's something similar to the king of Saudi Arabia right now, that everybody is following him. Whatever he says is law right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he owns all of Saudi Arabia. He may own some palaces here and there. And ownership is actually having possession, ownership of that, and that is your property, your thing to do. Allahu Ta'ala alam. Okay? So let's get into the temptation of women. Temptation of women. And we start off with a word, tabarruj. Tabarruj. Tabarruj, if you wanted to know in a nutshell, what is the summation of this word? We'll go into more detail. It's basically the unlawful exposure of the beauty. And Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala, in different parts in the Quran, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there's no greater fitna, no greater trial, conflict for men than women. After me, there's no greater conflict, no greater trial, no greater tribulation for men, meaning that they're women. Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala says also, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ, and what is the first thing he identifies? مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. And then he goes on, وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ الْمُقَنطَرَ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ وَالْخَلْ, and he goes on and on, all of the other things, but starts off that the weakest, that men are weakest when they face a woman. And it happens to all of us. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has warned us that the children of Israel, that their downfall was due to their women. Due to their women. And if you look in the countries today, the Western world today, all of Europe, all of Australia, all of the United States, Canada, women being outside of the workforce, meaning outside of the house, being in the workforce, part of the workforce, this is the degradation of society. Degradation of society. Before, you used to have one parent, meaning the father, would normally be outside of the house, and then the woman, being the mother of the children, she would take care of the children at home. Now, what is it? It's just basically passing that duty on to nannies and others and not taking care of that responsibility. So children today have a hard time identifying. They have a hard time identifying without the role of the father being there, and then the role of the mother. And then on top of all this, they can't even seem to stay together in marriage. They cannot, a woman and a man, cannot even, a husband and wife, cannot even seem to stay together in marriage. So let's review tabarruj. When a woman is neglecting her hijab, and hijab is a comprehensive term. It's not just the scarf that a woman takes. It's a comprehensive term. When she exposes that beauty of her, when she takes that adornment that she has and she allows it to be exposed, meaning it's not covered under the laws of the Sharia, before men that she's not supposed to be in front of. So let's go first. Which men is she allowed to be amongst and not have to cover up? Anybody? Father, right? So let's do the men. So father, uncles, which uncles? Either or's, right? Uncles, brothers, and husband, right? Husband. Can't be husbands, just one husband, right? Husband. And sons. Sons. It was one of the questions I was asked. So they said, you believe in polygamy? I said, Wallahi, I don't believe in polygamy. Polygamy means that both men and women can have multiple spouses. Do we believe that? Do we believe that both men and women can have multiple spouses? No. Who can have multiple spouses? Men. So women cannot. That's not. But if you're saying polygamy, polygamy means both. We believe in polygyny. 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 Why do we believe in that? Because that's men can have multiple spouses. Why? Allah said so. Khalas. I have nothing more to say on that. The brother-in-law. Father-in-law. Father-in-law is father-in-law, yes. She cannot marry him, yes. Father-in-law is, but what about the brother-in-law? The Prophet ﷺ said the brother-in-law is al-maut, the death. So a brother's wife, meaning the brother's wife, and that's his brother, she has to keep hijab from him. This is stepfather, Allahu Alam, that should be okay as well. Because now she's married. Once you marry into the relationship, meaning you're married to the mother, you cannot marry the daughters after that. Or if you marry the daughter, you cannot marry the mother after that. Allahu Alam. So, what does this include? I think you had a question there? Yes, go ahead. Stepbrother? Stepbrother, Allahu Alam, wants a father and mother. So like, let's say father, so let's use the Brady Bunch as an example. Do you know the Brady Bunch? There was the father with kids and the mother with kids when they marry. Once the father and mother marry, the brothers and sisters become haram on each other. So meaning that they do not have to have hijab with them, each other. Allahu Alam. Now, let's get a little bit more into tabarruj. I wanted to go into three different parts of it. Three different parts of tabarruj. Things that we don't normally talk about and we normally don't understand. One is when she exposes the beauty of her face and the body before non-mahram. That's one. So a person who does not take hijab. And we'll get into what hijab is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran talks about hijab. Number two, when she exposes the beauty of her clothing, the jewelry, and everything like that. So first, it's just herself, her own beauty. Second is the beauty of the clothing, jewelry. Third, when she exposes herself before them through the way she walks, she talks, she moves, she does all of these things. There's a hijab, comes into the character. All of this is about part of the hijab. It's not just covering the head, it's much more, it's more comprehensive. So if you saw a sister who's not practicing, and if the first thing you would tell her is just go wear hijab, it's probably not going to work. If anything, that's going to backfire on you, because first, what do you have to do? You have to bring her in to the deen, the way the Prophet ﷺ said. First, you start with making sure that the kalima exists, that la ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, and then you start to pray. Once you start to pray, you know that your prayer is not accepted unless you are in hijab, meaning you're covered the proper way. Now, what is hijab? What parts of the body of a woman should be covered? Everything except for face and hands, and there's a weak opinion about the feet being exposed as well. So majority say face and hands, and like I said, that there's another party, I don't want to say weak, but let's say another party that said that the feet can be exposed as well. Allah Ta'ala alam. So once these are exposed, she's in hijab. Now, it's the actual dress as well. when Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala informed the Prophet ﷺ to have his wives and the Muslimin. A lot of people say that this was an order only to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. But the ayah doesn't say that. Ayah says to have the wives and all of the Muslimin, all of the Muslimat, all of the Muslim sisters as well, to have them cover up, jalabib. And so what is it? So what they took a sheet, and that is a sheet that they would drop over themselves, which today we call burqas or whatever term you want to give it, right? Jilbab, right? There's different terms for it. But this is how it started about. And so this is an ayah in Surah Sh.Azam where they just start to take this on top of themselves. Now let me ask you a question. The ruling on tabarruj. The ruling on tabarruj. Do you think it's an obligation on a sister to do this? Or mustahab, praiseworthy? An obligation, right? A sister has to cover. Why? We already mentioned why. Because Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala saw that the other men would stare at the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and that these are the mothers of the believers, that they should have the utmost respect. Let me ask you a question. Once the Prophet ﷺ passed away, what happened to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ? Did they remarry? No, they did not remarry, and they were not allowed to remarry because they're the mother of the believers. And how do you have a man that is better than the Prophet ﷺ? You cannot. You cannot. That's the highest you can go in this dunya, is the Prophet ﷺ, the best man that ever walked on the face of the planet. This is the Prophet ﷺ. So there are a lot of questions. So let me stop here for a second. Any questions at this point in time? Sisters, any questions? No? Yes?
No, I just wanted to ask, when did the verses of hijab come down, like to make it mandatory for women?
The verses of hijab came down in the time of Medina. Oh. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he was in the time of Medina, it came down at that point in time. Okay. Allah Ta'ala. Okay. Any other questions? Let's continue. So, there was a question. So there was a question by a brother, and I was reading this post online, and he said, Wallahi, I try my best. I try my best to avoid this fitna of the woman being in front of us. So today, the Prophet ﷺ gave us a glimpse of the future, that there will be a day where they will be clothed, but it will almost look like they are not clothed. Meaning they're wearing clothing. The outer garments are there. Sorry, the outer garments, meaning the jilbab is off now, and they are in the undergarments, meaning a regular pants or shirt, and it's tight fitting, and it's, there's fitna. In the wintertime, alhamdulillah, mandatory hijab by Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala. When you walk outside, it's wintertime, it's 20 degrees, 30 degrees. When it's 20, 30 degrees outside, mandatory hijab season, right? Hats are worn, jackets, full coats. So alhamdulillah. When the summertime comes and the heat wave goes up, less and less clothing starts to appear. Subhanallah. One time I was going to Jummah prayer in Manhattan. In Jummah prayer, I was basically half a block away from Masjid, and you would see a dress like this. You would absolutely unbelievable. You can't believe that you're seeing this right before walking into Jummah prayer, and I have to lead the prayer. And you're watching, and subhanallah, you see this, why even bother, right? I mean, there's almost nothing there. I'm talking about the clothing, and this is the clothing that Prophet ﷺ warned us against. So what do you do? Number one, what do you think we should do? Anybody? Number one, what is the first thing that we should have? We should reaffirm our faith with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that this entire life for a man or a woman is to what? Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to reaffirm your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's where you start. That's where you have to start. Number two, What do you do then? There's a couple ayats about it too. You? Lower your gaze. You start looking down. This is a story of the Battle of Badr. The mushrikun had sent over women to dance around them and to try to entice them. Wallahi, not one of them, not one of those Sahaba, not one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ looked up. They're all over around, they're doing everything they're doing, and their vision remained lower. They didn't want anything to do with this because they know that this is the fitna, and they know that this is a trial sent by the mushrikun on them. And the Prophet ﷺ, the companions, stayed strong. They made sure that this is not something that they were going to fall into, these traps. Let's go back for a second. Before Islam came about, some of these great leaders, they have committed atrocities against girls, against women. What was the position of women at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, before Islam came? When a girl is born in the house, happy or sad? Absolutely sadness. Absolute sadness. Absolute sadness, like, and I'm talking about like, oh man, I got a girl. SubhanAllah. Having a girl. And they were absolutely sad. And what did they do with them? Buried them alive. Buried them alive. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala wardah shares his experience. He says his daughter was a few years old. And while he's burying her alive, she's dusting the sand off his beard. And the Prophet ﷺ, can't you think for yourself? And sometimes that's all we have to do is think for ourselves. So when you see something that's taking place like that, an atrocity that takes place like this, and you have nothing to say, you have a problem with your iman, with your heart. If your heart is hard as a rock, this is something that needs to change. The position of women at that point in time, they were treated like just an object. An object. They themselves were inherited. They themselves were inheritances for others. They would just take them. Islam came about and it set it free. Set it free. Deception of the world today, because they don't have any book to guide them. They don't believe in any of the holy books. They don't believe in the Bible anymore. They don't believe in the Torah anymore. They don't believe in the Quran. They don't believe in any of even the man-written books anymore. And the deception of people today, the deception that the shaitan is leading towards, what are they led towards? They are led towards going into a person in Norway has filed a petition to be able to marry his own pet. La ilaha illallah. Marry his own pet. Another one wants to engage in pedophilia. Astaghfirullah. Another one wants to be married to his own blood sister. La hawla wa la quwwata. This is why following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's religion is extremely important. When people have these wicked ideas, look at the entire scandal with the church. The church has its own scandal. They decided themselves, they said that Eesa alayhi salam did not marry because why? Why didn't he marry? Why did Eesa alayhi salam not marry? Did he refuse? And time never came. That option never came for him to marry yet. So inshallah when he comes back, and if the time allows, he will most likely get married. But Allahu A'lam, at that point in time, he did not get married. So they said him, and then I guess some of the apostles that they've made up stories against, they did not marry. And so celibacy is something that was introduced into Christianity. And what does that do? When you try to suppress regular natural feelings of a person, what happens? It comes out. And the scandals of the church started. The scandals in the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts started. So many scandals everywhere, all over the earth, all over the world. Scandals upon scandals. When you try to change the religion of Allah, when you try to take something that Allah has made halal and make it haram for yourself, this is what happens. This is what happens. And so the example upon example that you can have. The third thing, you should try to ward off these evil thoughts. When the evil thoughts come to you, you ward them off. You try to think about something that is halal, something that takes your mind off of it. The bad thoughts, they pose a danger to the heart. When the heart has dangerous thoughts in it, it becomes hardened, it becomes blackened. And this is when you are susceptible to doing those things which are haram. Now, if a person continues to dwell upon these and doesn't push them away, they become an idea. That idea starts to form. then into will and resolve. You continue into that step and you continue into that direction. And this will inevitably lead to 100% haram actions. And this is where we have to protect ourselves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Allahumma ameen. And what is the treatment? To go back and to come up with beneficial thoughts, things that take your mind off of it. Things that take your mind off of it. May I make a suggestion? When you are by yourselves, that is when the most evil of thoughts come to you. When you're in a group of people, alhamdulillah, you're amongst the brothers are amongst their brothers in their community, and the sisters amongst their sisters in their community, it makes it a little bit easier to handle these types of thoughts. These thoughts, when they come to you, you need to ward them off, and the way you ward them off is you leave, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, say Sh.Azam, and come into a gathering, come into the Masjid, go with your brothers, come and gather and have a meal, do something. You know, we once inshallah our gym is done inshallah, right, brother? We're gonna have a ball out there, right? We're gonna be balling. I'm gonna be balling too, inshallah, right? We're gonna see what. Well, inshallah, I'm getting older now. You see, Allah, I used to be black, now it's all white. But inshallah, we're gonna still try to do as much as we can, right? Inshallah, get the group in, get the kids into activities, sisters into activities. Do things, take the haram things away from them. Your cell phone, it gives you absolutely nothing. I'm telling you, Wallahi, I was like I told you a few weeks ago, I was in Umrah. And people on their cell taking selfies in front of the Kaaba and people doing tawaf in there. SubhanAllah. Come on. MashaAllah. You know, alhamdulillah, Allah brought you here, but you don't need a selfie, right? Make dhikr. I remember one person was actually making tawaf and talking on the phone. What? Ya Rab, what is this? This is subhanallah. And alhamdulillah, you know, these people are not picking up their phones while they're making salah. Be like, look, I'm praying right now. You know? That's the next step left only. Like, you know, they're going to pull out their phone just to, like, you know, not talking, everything, just, you know, just point it to themselves. Alhamdulillah. Ar-Rahman. Malik. Iyak. Right? That's subhanallah. The phones, we need to put them down, ya akhwan Islam. We need to turn them off. I don't understand in Jummah prayer, we have the phones and we don't turn them, we always want to keep them silent. And like, you know, vibration too. But that vibration is bothering you. Silence, ya akhwan Islam, silence. Silence. You can't answer it for 20 minutes, half an hour. You just turn it off. You know, you don't have to turn it off, but at least take it even off vibration, 100%, where the phone is not bothering you. 100%, just take it out. Phones, iPads, computers, TVs, you're watching movies, Netflix accounts. You keep on going. We bring the fitna to ourselves. Do you know what used to happen in the old days? In the old days, before this modern day world? When we used to have, there used to be, what do you call them? The gypsies. The gypsies, they used to call, what do you do? They would come from one town to the next town and they would settle down. They would have their camps outside and then they would send their women around to the town. And little by little they would go and try to do a show. And they would call each other one by one until they knock on the door and call them for that show. Now what do we do with these gypsies? We bring that entire concept of gypsy in our house. Now we just hit power on our TV button. We just hit power on our computer. We just hit power on iPad. We hit power on our phone. And then we're watching all these videos. Everything's in front of us. This is not helping the Islam. This is something that you need to cut out. We need to tone it down. You need to ward this off. These are not good thoughts. These are things that we want to stay away from. For those of you who are of age, get married. Start trying to get married. It's not hard. It's not easy to get married anymore, Islam. It's not easy. I don't know why it's not easy. If you ask me, what do the people are always looking for something? I don't understand what they're looking for. If you're looking for the absolute perfection, the Prophet ﷺ does not exist anymore. And if you're looking for next to perfection, the companions, ridwanullah ajma'een, both the male companions and the female companions do not exist anymore either. So what do we have? We have what we have. And what do you want to do? You want to try to get into relationships. You want to get into these marriages. And how do we do it? We have to be able to have this community base. Unfortunately, when you have a small community base coming here of sisters and a small community base inside the masjid of brothers, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. We have to have more community involvement. We know, oh, this brother has this. It's so much easier to get married that way. But we're more involved in the dunya. The world has taken us so far away. We keep on telling ourselves our education is something that is extremely important. That's fine. But we go sometimes way, way, way past it. Where, brothers and sisters want to become doctors and want to go into 7 years, 8 years of study, then do 3 years and 5 years and 7 years of residency. Now you've pushed yourself out to late 20s and early 30s. That's a hard thing to do. Now you're in your 30s, and what are you doing now? Now we're looking for someone your age, around your age, and we're just pushing everything out. And then we make the actual getting into the wedding very simple. Do you know the wedding should take like 5 minutes? The khutbah is a couple of minutes. Ask the brother and the sister, do you want to marry? They can ask the brother, do you accept? Yes, alhamdulillah. Khalas, finished. That's the wedding, that's the marriage. What do we do now? We need to have absolute perfect suits. Everybody's got to be in absolute blue. Red shirts, white ties, red socks, green shoes. Subhanallah. You got to wear, a purple turban. Wow, subhanallah. And we need to take pictures. We can't do it without pictures. Pictures. And wallahi, you know what hurts the most? What hurts the most? People don't understand it every day. We spend so much on these wedding days, and majority of them fall apart. La ilaha illallah. Majority of them fall apart. It's so saddening that you're spending so much. You know what we do? Why we do this? And then I want to just show you what is happening. We spend so much money on this one day that we're starting here. And all it is we're just trying to throw a party. The wedding day, the walima, is just a party, and you're at this high. And what are you going to do? You think you're going to go higher? It's a crash landing. Especially if you're in debt. If you're in debt, you take all this money out, your parents take out retirement money, or they're taking loans out to do all this. This is a difficult concept. These are things that are hurting us. Right? From a sister in hijab, and now what are you doing? You're waiting for that sister in hijab. Because you can't get into that wedding. You can't get into that relationship. You can't get into that relationship because we've done it all backwards. I think I told you this one before. If not, this is worth repeating. There was a young lady in the office that I work with, and we were in an audit. And when we were sitting in the conference room, she had mentioned something about her personal philosophy. Her personal belief is she doesn't believe in weddings. She doesn't believe in marriages. And so I was like, wow, that's a very deep concept. And I didn't understand, she goes, I just don't believe in it. So a few years later, she's like, oh, I just got married. And I was like, wait, I thought you didn't believe in marriage. She goes, I still don't believe in marriage. And I was like, so why'd you get married? She goes, the reason I got married is because my husband, my partner, would not be able to get insurance with us, so I got married. I was like, whoa, you got married just for insurance? She goes, oh, but it wasn't really a marriage. It was just like, it was just a pass-through. I was like, what did you do? She goes, our wedding ceremony. So first we went to court. We filed the $50, $100 paperwork, and we got a marriage license. I was like, wow, pretty cool. And she goes, then we had our reception. So walima reception. I was like, all right, what did you do there? She goes, it was my parents, his siblings, my siblings, his two best friends, my two best friends, finish. 14 people, $700, and we got married. I was like, you had an Islamic wedding, mashallah. Right? So subhanAllah, you think about these things. These are things that are supposed to be in our community. Others are doing it. To have these outrageous marriages and weddings and all this money being spent on halls and clothing that you only wear once or twice and returning it or renting it or whatever it is that you're doing, these are concepts that are hurting us. They're not helping us with this concept. The temptation of women stays. The temptation of women stays because we can't get ourselves to that stage. And so for those of us who can't get ourselves to that stage yet, even if we're ready to get married, we're of that age, but now we have some restrictions from our parents where you need to finish your studies. Who's going to give you their daughter in your hand if you have no money in your hands? If you're not making any money, right? That's the next, isn't that a logical thing? Like, do you work? No. What do you, school? How are you going to support your wife? That's hard. So what do? The next logical step, number 5, is to fast. To fast. Fast for those who cannot afford to get married. It's The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever cannot get married, let him fast, because it works as a shield for him. Al-Qurtubi said that the less a person eats, the weaker his desire becomes. And the weaker his desire is, the less sins that he commits. The less sins that he commits. This is important. This is another way to resist that temptation. Resist that temptation. Number 6, I have keeping away from bad companions. You ever see that companion that's just wild? Anybody? I have an office companion like that. If we're ever going to lunch together, and he's always going to point out to the fitna, and I'm like, listen, bro, relax. You're married, you got 4 kids, alhamdulillah, I'm married, you got 4 kids, alhamdulillah, he's not Muslim. So, we have to control him a little bit. But he's, that's the way. It's okay to look. I'm not doing anything. What does Islam say? Can you look? The first glance, because you don't want to bump into it, right? I give you the first glance. The first glance, meaning you see something, and then the next thing is, you just put your eyes down, vision down, sight down, and continue to walk, continue to do what you need to do. So make sure your companions, they're chosen wisely. If they're the ones that are going to lead you into this haram way, and even if they're just going to give you that nudge, these are some people that you want to stay away from, inshallah. Stop here for a second. Any questions? Questions? This is a hard concept. This is something that, in the wintertime, it's a little bit easier to get away with, right? The temptation is not as rampant. But when the summertime comes about, when the springtime comes about, all of this is going to start happening again. And so we need to be prepared. We need to prepare ourselves, inshallah, in another few months, about 3.5, 4 months away from Ramadan, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to experience the month of Ramadan, inshallah, very soon. Allahumma ameen. This is very important that we prepare ourselves for the next few months, and then the summertime comes, and we hit it, running, inshallah. And Monday Night Boost, you're still coming here when it's, extremely hot outside. We'll boost up the ACs inside here and make sure that everybody can come here, sit down with us, and have a relaxing evening with us, inshallah. No questions? Yes? Say, my brother. Well, you have a question or a comment?
Just an addition and clarification.
Say it again. An
addition and clarification. Because the topic is so beautiful, and I love the way how you are putting it over. However, when it's mentioned that during the time of the Prophet, women were buried alive, or when people say that during the time of the Prophet, women were treated with little or no respect, it was not only the Arabs used to do that, the then world used to be like that towards women. Because today people will feel that, it was the Arabs who were so vicious. No, even in the Old Testament, it is mentioned that Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines. So, and even in India, if a husband dies, they burn the wife with her.
Right.
So my clarification is that the topic is a temptation of women. This in no way means that we degrade the status of women, because Islam look at women equally to men, but they are not identical. And at the same time, that in the then world, while other women were treated bad, the Quran elevate the status and the dignity and the chastity and the modesty of women. That is why an entire surah was revealed, and that surah named Surah Nisa. And inasmuch women are tempted, the temptation of women, yes, but men can be temptation too. Right?
And I was going to go to that at the end.
Right. Very good. Because today the non-Muslims, they are hitting us. We are not taking a balanced approach. So, and this is this topic is a topic that I just like the way how you're doing it. That's why I try to add to it. But at the same time, Muslims must walk away with one thing, that even 100 years ago, in America here, women was given the right to vote. 100 years ago, only woman was seen as an equal citizen. And the rights that Islam gave women 1500 years ago up to now, this society or no Western society has given women that right. Because today, you're right, women are in the street working, and our women are like diamond and gold and silver. So at a glance, the topic looked temptation of us. If I was a woman without knowledge, I'm going to come to listen temptation of women. Are we so toxic? But the topic, beautifully the brothers put in it, you know what? The women who don't pray the salah, the women who don't dress properly, the women who are not Muslim. Look at the flip side of it. On the flip side, women are the mothers. Women are our daughters. Women are our wives. And in Islam, when women obey Allah, they can become, or they are, dignified. And, women are the mothers of all men. So the topic should be understood in the context, and it should be symmetrical. So when we leave here, we must understand, yes, despite the temptation of women is toxic, yes. If men do the same, they could be toxic too. But at the same time, and at the end of it, Islam placed dignity and modesty and chastity and integrity on women. Thank you.
So, you're right. So that it's, when we say the temptation of women, it's not just that the women, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ has told us that we are extremely weak, and these are things that are going to affect us. And in order for us to be able to combat that, this is how we handle it. So just to add to your point, the brother is 100% right. When Islam came and liberated the women, when it came and now the women are treated like equals. In terms of intellect, we're 100% equals. In terms of their beauty is now protected for their loved ones, for their husbands, for the ones that they're supposed to enjoy their beauty. Now they're able to get inheritance. Now they're able to, inherit from their fathers. Before they were the inheritance. They were the property. Now they're not property. They're actually people. They're being treated like human beings. In the same vein, around that same time, the Christian church was battling within themselves, thinking if woman is even a human being or not. They were almost thinking that it's an animal. Right? I mean, there's just to think how they thought about women. But then the Prophet ﷺ came, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with the revelation. And he tells us, the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever is able to raise 2 daughters, or 3 daughters, in another narration, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them paradise. The parents are given paradise. So there's rewards. And if everybody wanted to have daughters, if everybody wants to have sons, who would the sons marry? Right? So daughters and sons, they're equally important. There's other things that come about. There's an ayah at the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayat al-Dain. It's very confusing. It's talking about a financial transaction. But it says if you have women, that you always get 2 witnesses, but if it's a woman, that you're going to have 2 of the women representing 1 witness. But it's speaking of a financial transaction, and many people confuse that they are unable to make a decision on their own. It was about finances. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen this for financial transactions, that you have 2 sisters together to do it as representing 1, as opposed to 2 men or 1 each. Allahu A'lam. Right? There's things that are in our deen that are there. Sometimes we understand completely 100%, and other times we don't. And we don't understand it. We accept it as it is, and we follow it to the best of our abilities. The other issue that we have right now is the Prophet ﷺ has always told us that, starting with the father, grandfather, then the uncles, then the brothers, and then the sons, that these are the ones that are caretakers. We do not have authority over the women. We have responsibility over you, my sisters. We have responsibility. So when we're asking you, we should be escorting you. We should know where you are, where you're going, and how you're going to be coming back. And if possible, that you should always go with someone from your family that's as an escort. This is the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, today's time, we let our daughters travel and sisters travel away and live at college and live at schools on their own. This is not from the sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If that's something that you want to do, then it should be a family discussion, and either the family decides to bring you closer to home, or the family goes to wherever university or whatever you want to do to try to study. But this is again for protection of the one sex, one gender had to be protected. Right? One gender has to be protected. And there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed the women to be protected. That we don't have authority. Again, I'm going to say this. We do not have authority over them until they are going to violate the law of Allah. Then we have to impose our authority. Up until that point in time, we have responsibility. We take care of our mothers, our wives, our sisters, our daughters. And then again, in the next generation with nieces and granddaughters and etc. This is what the responsibility of men is. Again, we confuse it a lot of times with authority, and we try to be very hard, very vicious about it, but that's not the concept that we're looking for. What we're looking for is someone who is even keeled and taking care of the duties of his household. So a woman can inherit. A woman can now have her own property. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she was the first Muslim after the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The first person who accepted Islam was a woman. And she spent so much of her wealth. She spent all of her wealth in the da'wah with the Prophet ﷺ in belief. This is support of a wife, and this is a support of a Muslim sister. This is a support that we're looking for. The first martyr in Islam is a woman, Sumayya radiallahu ta'ala wardaha. Just look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored the women. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala wardaha, her status is elevated. Of the four greatest women, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that Maryam, the mother of Eesa ﷺ, is the highest. Then Asiya radiallahu ta'ala wardaha, the wife of the Pharaoh. And then the third number is Khadija radiallahu ta'ala wardaha, and then his own daughter Fatima radiallahu ta'ala wardaha. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that these are the four greatest women. So women have been, mashallah, tabarakallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated their status. What has happened in the Western world? That they have crossed those boundaries. And those boundaries. So for example, the deception that's coming about now is that a person who covers themselves, what does that mean? Oppression. A person who can get rid of their clothing, that means freedom. Right? Deceive. Deception. This is the deception of the shaitan. The devil is deceiving the people. And this is a road, this is a road that's being paved for the Dajjal, for the coming of the Dajjal. For the Antichrist, all of this evil, deception is going to come about. Now, you were saying before about the fitna of men. The fitna of men as well. The fitna of men as well, brothers. The fitna for sisters, they have that fitna as well. When you invite them, when the man invites a sister, she feels it too. When a person dresses, you want to put on your muscle shirt and show off your muscles, and they're supposed to wear loose clothing. No. Us as well as men, we're supposed to wear loose clothing as well. Loose. It should not be shaping our bodies, and we are walking a certain way as well. We don't have that type of hijab. But we still have our own character, our own morals that we need to follow as men. We need to have, and help, if we want to help our sisters. One brother says that there was a non-Muslim family living next door, and so the sister comes out. Every time she comes out, she was wearing niqab. So it's summer heat, 90 degrees outside, and she's all decked out. And the husband comes out, and he's wearing like Daisy Duke shorts and no t-shirt, nothing. He goes, she has to wear everything, and he has to wear nothing? That doesn't make sense. You should be in a state of being able to pray at any moment in time. So have all the time, having yourself covered. If you want to wear shorts, wear the shorts that come beyond the knees, so at least you can pray. And now you're not looking for a pair of pants or a towel to wrap around just so you can pray. Right? So we should take precautions on our end as well. We should not create fitna for ourselves and our children and our families. We should try to show that we are living in a non-Muslim country, and when we're living in this non-Muslim country, that we're showing them that Islam is the way, Yahweh. Islam is the only way. It's the only book right now that is in its original form. All the other books have been changed. We don't know what has been changed, what is correct, what is not. Whatever the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has confirmed for us, we know, and whatever he's not confirmed, we don't know. And anything in between, we don't know. We try not to take unless it's helpful to us. Otherwise, we try to stay away from the Israeliyat sources, and we try to stick to the Quran, and then we start to stick to the 6 books of Sunan of the Prophet ﷺ's way, and then that's how we That's how we will move. That's how we live. Yes, my brother. You had a question or a comment? No? Question back here? Yes. No, no. Oh, yes, my brother. Back there.
There were two questions that someone asked.
Sure.
It's the first one is, what's the ruling of women wearing perfume in the masjid? Second is, what's the ruling of women wearing makeup?
So, any sister who is getting dressed up, and so again, this is another backward ways of doing things, right? When we go to these, outside parties and stuff, when you're leaving the house, a sister should be in a regular, like, as regular as possible. What she should be doing is she should be dressing up for the husband to keep that relationship fresh inside of the house. So what we do is we do the other way around. So we put, so sisters and brothers too, for the most part, right? Even us, when we're sitting at home, we're, eating, drinking, don't take a shower that day probably, and this, and sitting on the sofa, doing whatever the heck we want, right? When a sister gets her makeup on, puts on beautiful clothing, jewelry, and puts on the perfume, and she leaves the house, this is something that is not something that's sanctioned by Islam. To wear perfume and to go outside where other men, non-mahram men can smell this, this is something that is prohibited. And so when they come to the masjid with perfume on, again, Allahu A'lam, a lot of the sisters are usually with the sister section, but just being outside and others that are smelling it as well, that part of it is inappropriate. And if they're in the sister section, Allahu A'lam, if that's where they are and if that's where they're doing it. But generally speaking, if they're inside of the masjid and they have perfume on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept the prayers from them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept any of the ibadah from them. So you should try to wear something that's scentless, if you're wearing deodorant, or if you wanted to wear some types of creams and things that are extremely extravagant, I would try to stay away from them. As per makeup, the scholars of Islam have said, like, so if you put nail polish on your nails, now you're covering the enamel covering the nail part of it, so the water has to hit the skin and the nails and everything combined. So if you're putting makeup on, and now you're trying to wash it, you would have to remove that makeup and have the actual skin being washed. So Allahu A'lam, if you're going to put on makeup, and if this is an evening function, and alhamdulillah today, like the winter time, the days are a little bit early. If you're going to put it on and you're going to do what you're going to do, hopefully it's an evening function after Isha, and that way you don't have to worry about wudu until the Fajr time, inshallah. Allahu A'lam. Though summertime is a different story, inshallah. So, you try to stay away from these things as much as you possibly can, and try to stay as simple as possible. That is the best thing to do. Try to stay as simple as possible. There's a couple of things I wanted to just point out. Keeping away from places of temptation, right? Where you know that there's something going on and you're going to see wickedness, you're going to see those temptations. Those are places that you want to stay away from, right? So I still remember I went to an all-boys high school. And then when I went to undergrad, right, I'm sitting in class, and I was one of the first ones there. And I was sitting there ready, I got my notebook ready to go, first class, and I think it was math, or I can't remember, literature maybe. And another guy comes in, another girl comes in, and I'm like, this is weird. I haven't seen this for 4 years, where I'm sitting in an all-boys school and studying all the time, right? I've never had any issue. And now I see, and they're not, and I'm talking about this is August, end of August, and there's no dress code. You just wear wherever you want. SubhanAllah. And usually you get a woman sitting here, you have a young lady sitting there, young lady sitting there, young lady sitting around you, and you got some men sitting around you, and you're like, Wallahi, at that time I had one of my buddies in my class as well. And I looked at him, I was like, this is not a place of learning. At that point in time, I said, this is not a place of learning. You can't learn like this. This is fitna all around you. And this is how we're expecting our children, this is how I expected myself to learn, and this is how we were expecting our children to learn as well. This is suicide. This is suicide. One of the things that we should recognize is from the story of Adam alayhi salam, and his wife, that garden that they were in, that tree that there was around them, right? That tree, if we're around that tree, we're susceptible. What do you need to do? Remove that garden, remove that tree out of your life. some way or another, one way or another. Either from prohibit yourself from going to that end, or come up with ways to, to basically get an education and still keep your honor and dignity. This is extremely important. So even when we go into these environments, wallahi, I still don't understand. Muslims have been in this school, in this country for more than 60, 70 years now, and we still don't have a full-fledged university, Islamic university anywhere. I'm talking about full-fledged Islamic university where you can go in there if you wanted to study math, if you wanted to study any types of sciences, you wanted to study Islam, you wanted to study, whatever you wanted to study. Why do we still not have one here? Allahu A'lam. It's because our priorities are messed up, right? Because we believe in a certain fiqh. We want to keep on establishing a masjid with our fiqh. And we want to have our Islamic school with our fiqh. And we get up to middle school and high school, and then after that we drop off. We don't think that the college and the next education, that next level of education is the most important. And that's where we suffer. And again, that's another thing that leads to temptation. Number 8, don't make your houses graves. Make sure that you're constantly, using, the Quran, praying in there. One of my relatives was telling me that one of the teachers told them to bring the book from your house that is the least read, the least used. He said to these 10 students, all 10 students brought the Quran into the school. He said, what, the Quran? Nobody, he goes, yeah, we don't use this book inside of the house. We just, that's it. SubhanAllah. The least read book inside of the house is the Quran. La ilaha illallah. And trying to make the most of your time in worshiping, obeying Allah. And finally, remember the blessings of the hereafter. Quick story. A man who was faced with a fitna of a woman, and then he remembered Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala. He remembered Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala at that point in time, when he remembered that Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala is the one worthy of being worshipped. He remembered him, and Allah subhanahu jalla wa ala has given him his shade, the one who was protected from the fitna of the woman, the fitna of the other gender. And again, that's just, we say woman, but it's both sides. A woman who protects herself, as well as a man who protects for himself from the woman. So Allahu A'lam. Any questions here? Yes.
I remember in the beginning of the lecture you mentioned that women are allowed to show their face and their hands.
Yes.
Where does the niqab come in?
The niqab is just the ones that want to cover their face as well. Meaning the obligation, the obligatory requirement is to make the everything covered except for the face and the hands. That's the least requirement. And I told you that the third is another opinion that say that you can expose the feet as well. So that is the minimum that needs to be covered. So what some of these sisters are doing is the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to drop a sheet over themselves and they used to cover their faces as well. And so the sunnah of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ is something that's extended. Allah Ta'ala. Yes. Question? Mike. There's a question in the back.
Assalamu alaikum. There is a question from Facebook. Sheikh, when will you and the rest of the scholars tell us what the part of the solution is brothers marrying multiple sisters?
Say it again.
He said, one of the solutions is brothers marrying multiple sisters.
We're marrying more than one sister. Allahu Alam. You know what I was going to say to that brother? Inshallah, one day, let's first get every brother at least one sister. And if there's some sisters left over, inshallah, we'll get them married too. Allahu Alam. How about that? Does that seem fair to everyone? First, let's get all our brothers married off to at least one sister. And then we'll say, we'll be like, okay, whatever the brothers. Because we'll figure it out. By that time, we'll have it figured out too, which brothers can actually handle one. And then we'll think about if we can handle the second one. Right? Inshallah. Inshallah, that's a very interesting question that always comes up always about, brothers always trying to marry more than one. Remember, this is the only religion in the world, only religion, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has dictated that we marry one. And then that the permission has been given for 2, 3, and 4, but they have to be treated as equally as possible. They have to be treated as equal as possible to their, to their background, whatever. So if they come from an extremely impressive background, that you may have to, provide for, but if you can't do that, then you won't be able to provide her with her minimum requirements. So Allahu Alam, what we want to try to do is first find one for every single brother, one sister, inshallah. And for every every sister, inshallah, we want to make sure that you have a brother, right? I tell myself, my kids all the time, this is very important, brothers. Men marry women, women marry men in Islam, right? This is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has dictated this to us, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has confirmed this to us. So this is very important that we end with this, inshallah. That we do the halal way, that we try to keep everything in accordance with the deen, in accordance with the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for us, and in the best way that the Prophet ﷺ himself has done it. Even though he had multiple wives, not one wife ever complained about the Prophet ﷺ. He never yelled at any one of them. And some of them, they caused a lot of problems for him, but never. He never yelled at a child. He never hit a child. You know, this is the character of the Prophet ﷺ. So yes, you want to get married, but then we should also take a course on the character of the Prophet ﷺ and how he treated his wives, and the same for the sisters, how the wives behaved with the Prophet ﷺ when you start marrying. A lot of brothers ask, where are the good women? A lot of good women ask, where are the good brothers? They're both existing right here, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us. Any final question? 2 minutes left. Yes, my brother.
Also, during the time of the Prophet, not all the tribes used to bury their girl children alive. Just a few tribes used to do that. Because what we got to take into account is that, like, to maintain the social structure of society, there had to be a balance, like everybody get a wife.
Right.
So not all tribes were practicing that. A few tribes were doing it, number one. And number two, there were some women, even before Islam, that enjoy certain social status in society.
No.
Like the Prophet wife Khadija, she was one of them. Before the prophethood, she was a merchant. She used to do trade, get people to work for her. So in as much women were treated harshly, there were some women who enjoy status in society, and not all tribes bury their girl children alive, just a few. Inshallah.
Just final thing, you said something, and it just reminded me that of the people who are accepting Islam, there's more women accepting Islam than men. If Islam was so oppressive of women, why would more women be accepting Islam than men? Just the question. More women right now are accepting Islam than men. They're looking for that respect. They're looking for izzah. They're looking for that acknowledgement of the wife, that protection, that security, the tranquility inside of a relationship. This is Islam, ya akhwan. Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. May Allah make it easy for you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of you who have not gotten married, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you beautiful, righteous Muslim spouses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us all in the highest level of Jannah al-Firdaus al-A'la. وقولوا قولي هذا واستغفروا الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين والمسلمات فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Brother.
Oh, yes.
Don't block.
Oh, you're blocking me.
Sorry, can you please announce
my apologies. The mindset of a believer is this Friday, inshallah. It's our next New Leaf session. Mindset of a believer. Sheikh Zakaria Baksh will be teaching this right after Isha time at 7:30, inshallah, inside of the Masjid. Open to everyone, inshallah. Please try to join us as much as you can, inshallah. I won't be here this weekend, inshallah, but please try to join us. These are very instrumental. These are very good lessons. The basic faith, just having a mindset of a believer, starting with Tawheed, inshallah. So this is this Friday, 7:30. Here inside of the Masjid, special session open for the public, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan.
So inshallah, we're going to have refreshments soon. It's coming. Yeah, it's coming. So we can have nice discussion after this on site, off site.